In Mark 2, verse 27, Jesus says that the Sabbath was made for people, not people for the Sabbath. This provocative statement lies at the heart of his revolutionary teaching on the law of Moses. Jesus did not come to abolish, do away with the law altogether, but he consistently claimed authority over the law, that the Son of Man is Lord even of the Sabbath. By asserting his lordship over the Sabbath, Jesus rejected any absolute subjection to the Old Testament Sabbath law for himself and his disciples, which proved that Moses was not the Lord of Jesus. The New Testament repeatedly presents Jesus as greater than the institutions and figures of the Old Covenant, greater than the temple in Matthew 12, greater than the weekly Sabbath here in Mark 2, and as a result, greater than Moses, John 1:17 and Hebrews chapter 3. This lordship is not merely theoretical because Jesus practiced what he preached and at times sets aside specific Torah, that is, commandments from Sinai. Many of these commandments were not later rabbinic inventions or Pharisaic, human traditions, but rooted in the Torah itself. A careful reading of the Gospels reveals that Jesus felt free to reform significant parts of that Mosaic system. Consider the following examples. In Mark 7:15, Jesus declares, "Nothing which is on the outside and goes into you, such as food, can make you unclean." And the Gospel writer later adds this key explanatory note. With this remark, Jesus pronounced every kind of food clean. This is a direct contradiction of the Torah's distinction between clean and unclean foods back in Leviticus chapter 11. In Matthew 19, Jesus rejects the Mosaic certificate of divorce entirely, insisting that marriage is indissoluble from the beginning. The Torah's show no pity, eye for an eye standards is replaced by an unqualified command to love one's enemies and refuse all retaliation in Matthew chapter 5. In Matthew 17, Jesus pays the temple tax mandated by the Torah, but only after asserting that the sons, that is, he and his followers, are actually exempt from this law. Yet Jesus commands Peter to pay the temple tax so as to avoid causing offense to anyone, meaning his fellow Jews who remain under Torah. Jesus' disciples work on the Sabbath, acts that provoke accusations of lawbreaking in Matthew chapter 12. Yet Jesus defends them by appealing to exceptions in the Old Testament itself that Jesus now makes the rule and his own authority rather than to Torah. Jesus himself declares on the Sabbath day, "To this very day, I too am working," in John 5:17. These are not minor ceremonial adjustments or rabbinic interpretations. They strike at the heart of Torah observance, its civil penalties, purification rituals, and cultic temple requirements, so that the real reason certain Jewish leaders wanted Jesus killed was not merely his Torah criticisms, but his claim to override the Torah itself. By declaring foods clean, forbidding divorce, rejecting retaliatory justice, and asserting lordship over the Sabbath, Jesus positioned himself as one with a unique authority to determine what remained or not. This was understood rightly as a special claim to divine prerogative, and for many it amounted to blasphemy. And it also went beyond any rabbinical halakha precedent, so that many were amazed at his teaching, for he taught with real authority, quite unlike the teachers of religious law. According to Mark chapter 1, verse 22, Matthew 7, Luke 4, and John 7. Mark's gospel in particularly repeatedly highlights the new freedom set by Jesus for his followers from meticulous Torah observance. For example, fasting in Mark chapter 2, again the weekly Sabbath, clean and unclean distinctions in Mark 7. The controlling standard is no longer the written law of Moses, but what Jesus is preaching and commanding to practice. Why do you call me Lord, Lord, and not do what I tell you? Whoever is ashamed of me and my words among this unfaithful and sinful society, the Son of Man will be ashamed of them when he comes in the glory of his Father with the holy angels. Christian discipleship, therefore, does not consist of placing oneself back under Torah. It consists of submission to a new and greater law of Messiah who has fulfilled the law of Moses, reformed it, and now authoritatively interprets it for his followers. So I ask you, who is your Lord, Moses or Jesus?